Hey guys, this is the Spyderco Endura 4. I have carried this knife for a few months, I have reviewed it, and I've tested the VG10 steel that Spyderco heat treats versus the VG10 steel that Falkniven heat treats. And I prefer the Spyderco version because the Falkniven version microchips. No matter what I did to it, it microchips. I've said everything I wanted to say about this knife in my review, but there are a few things that I would like to say in this video as well. I like the knife. It was an excellent choice for me to get this knife. However, I'm not the biggest fan of lock-back designed folders. Coupled with thin FRN handle, they can feel unstable. So when you cut something that's hard, it will push the lock back into your hand, making it feel less stable. Plus, the handle is a bit narrow. So for harder tasks, if you're cutting cardboard, hard plastics, wood, you might want to use a glove because otherwise you have to squeeze the knife in your hand will get tired, and it's going to be a bit uncomfortable. But that's true for most folders. All that being said, like I said, I like the knife. Together with the Para 2, I think that these are the best folders that Spyderco produces. I have not worked with a lot of Spyderco folders, but from what I've worked with, the Endura 4 and the Paramilitary 2 are definitely my favorites. For EDC, in the woods, whatever kind of tasks, great designs. And they're fun to play with. The Paramilitary 2 might be a bit more fun to play with. However, this one is very smooth and I would say also a lot of fun to play with. It was the fact that I liked this knife so much which led me to getting this knife. This is the Ganzo G732. And you don't even need to look at it very closely to see that it looks very much like the Endura 4. There are a few differences. You get a sharpening choil with this one. The jimping's different. You have full steel liners. It's a flow-through design. G10 handle scales. And of course, it has a liner lock instead of a back lock. I prefer a liner lock. But, just to answer the question up front, unlike the case of the G720 versus the SR1, I think this is not a replacement for the Endura. I most definitely think that the G720 is the better option than the SR1 because I prefer to work with the G720. It sits better in my hand, pocket clip is better, and it'll cost you a fraction of the price. This one will cost you about 20% of an Endura, but it's no replacement for the Endura. I would always choose my Endura, and this is where the comparison part stops. And I presented this because I know there are going to be a lot of people who are going to ask me, yes, would you choose it over your Endura? Or do you think this is a good replacement for an Endura? I have gotten that question on other videos, and I wanted to say no. Just like with the, I think G729 it is, and Paramilitary, somebody asked me if I considered that a good alternative to the Paramilitary. If what you're looking for is a Paramilitary 2 or an Endura, and you're going to get the Ganzo versions of it, yes, they look the same. For me, the most important part is that they hold a good edge, but that's where it stops. The Paramilitary 2 experience from a knife lover's point of view is something very, very cool. Those are very cool knives. A real pleasure to work and play with. These can be very good working knives, and that's why I got this one. I got it about 3 months ago, and I think about 1.5 weeks ago I got to cleaning up the edge and started to carry it. on my left hand side, not as an EDC knife, just as a testing knife. I don't even carry it with me every day. Thursday, I prepared food with it for about half an hour, and yesterday, Saturday, I cut a lot of wood shavings and prepared food with it. Now, after about 5 minutes of cutting wood shavings out of pine wood, and pine wood is a soft wood, however, it is very abrasive, it wasn't shaving anymore. I kept working with it, and it did a good job because the grind is very thin. So it just plowed through that pine wood. It was very dry, however, it is still a softwood. After about, 25, 30 minutes of cutting wood shavings, I went to prepare some food. Cut meat, vegetables, bread. After all that was done, the knife was not shaving sharp anymore. And I tried to strop it back to shaving sharp. I know my G720 can do that. But the G720 I've modified from about a 30 degree per side edge angle to a 20 degree per side edge angle. So I removed a lot of steel. This one I've sharpened once, and it was very little that I had to remove. I just cleaned up the edge. So I couldn't strop it back to shaving sharp. But I did take out my DC4 stone, a couple of swipes on the DC4 per side, stropped it twice, and it was shaving. I say that's good. For me, that's okay. For what I did with it, how much I worked with it, and how much effort I had to put into it to get it back to shaving sharp, that was okay. Now, the pocket clip in this position also helps with the thickness of the handle. And no folder will be as comfortable as a fixed blade. If you're going to cut enough wood with a folder, at some point you'll say, well, you know what, I really wish I had a Mora. That's just how it is. But it was more comfortable than some other folders. It was more comfortable than the Endura. It was more comfortable than the Griptilian. The Griptilian has those small bumps on the handle. And if you squeeze that hard enough for a long enough period of time, it will become very uncomfortable. This one, of course it was uncomfortable, it is a folder, but it was more comfortable than, for example, the Griptilian. And when your hands get wet, or oily, or greasy, this pattern in the G10 will provide enough traction. And it will not bother you if you just squeeze the knife in your hand, like the Griptilian does, for example. I personally like full liners. I like liner locks. The extra weight, I don't mind while carrying the knife. Of course, it will stress out your pockets. You could sand it down, do whatever you want. I'm not going to do it because I really enjoy this traction. If you run your finger on the scales hard enough, it will catch skin. So it's very aggressive, but just squeezing it does an excellent job. I actually also do not like to put the pocket clip down here. I find it very uncomfortable, but in this position, no problem. Also, on this side, doesn't do anything for me. In my case, this is my personal choice, and I say best position ever. It also lends to the knife being more of a deep carry pocket knife. I will reduce the edge angle. This is a test knife for me, so I'll try to get it to about 15 degrees per side with a V-edge, and then convex it and see how far I can take it until it takes damage with regular use. This is the plan. I don't know how long it's going to take me. However, I did want to show you this knife because I think it's a really cool design. I like to keep the pivot very tight, so I cannot flick this knife out. I can easily open it, and it's smooth enough for how tight it is. Sits perfectly centered, and there is no blade play. So, in my book, I don't know, $17, $20, very well spent. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions about the G732, let me know in the comment section. If you're planning to get one, take it from me. For me, this was a test knife, so I don't mind, but the orange G10 really gathers dirt. I don't know if you can see it on camera. It looks just a bit darker, but I can see it here. It's very dirty. I don't spend a lot of time cleaning up, testing knives, but take it from me, it gathers dirt very, very quickly. So you might want to get a different color. Other than that, super happy with it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd like to thank you for watching, and as always, I wish you all a great day.